going on, everybody? It's time for another top 10 video. Let's discuss my top 10 favorite horror franchises. Don't be upset if your favorite franchise is not on here. Will Silent Night, Deadly Night franchise make it on here? Maybe, maybe not. I won't spoil that. So let's talk about it. I already recorded this, but then I forgot a franchise. Don't know how it slipped my mind, but I saw a T-shirt of mine. I was like, how did I forget about that franchise? So I had to throw it on here, re-record this, and these things could change at any given moment. It was very hard to throw this together. I didn't put too much thought into this list because if I did, I would have drove myself nuts. Like, no, this one should go here. No, maybe it should go here. This is the list that you're gonna get. All right, I'm finalizing it now. This is the list. If I think too much about it, it might change again. So this is the final list. All right, this is it. And I'll give you 3 honorable mentions. And the first one will be the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. This is not a franchise that I grew up with. I saw the remake and the remake prequel first, and then many years after that, I saw the other ones, like the first one, and then I saw the recent prequel, and then I saw like 2, 4, and 3 right after that. So all close together. So I grew up with the remake and prequel. The continuity is all over the place, and that's a huge thing for me is continuity. So that's one thing I kind of looked at with my ranking, which one is the most consistent with continuity, in the quality, blah blah blah, things that I look for, things that I like, entertainment value. These are all entertaining. Some of them are more gritty and disturbing. They're not supposed to be fun like the first one. I think the remake is scary as hell. The fourth one's trash. Third one's fine, but generic. But I enjoy it. I like the Leatherface we get in that movie. Kane Hodder plays Leatherface in that one as well. And the second one's very over the top funny, and I enjoy it. And the prequel doesn't really feel like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, the Leatherface one, but the remake and remake prequel are like my favorites. Texas Chainsaw 3D is like a guilty pleasure. I can enjoy that one. Leatherface is fine in that one. I like that he stitches the mask into his face, like through his jaw. I thought that was cool. But the timeline within that movie makes no fucking sense. What were they thinking? So that's my first honorable mention, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. Second honorable mention franchise will be the Scream movies. Now, why it's not in my top 10 is because I'm a slasher fan. I want creative kills, gore, nudity. This has none of that. There's no gore in any of these 4 movies. When Scream 5 comes out, which it will in 2022, right? I think it said January 2022. It better correct that, all right? Step it up. So that aside, I really like the whodunit aspect of these films. I thought they give you plenty of red herrings in each of them, and it's intriguing. I really like that aspect of these films because on the first viewing, it's always fun. There's lots of good characters, a great final girl in all of them. She's got a very strong arc. She's a very strong character, like Sydney. And Scream 4 is probably my favorite sequel. Scream 2, I think, is a little silly at times. Dumbass characters and just a very dumb opening. 3 is definitely the weakest one, but I can still enjoy it. It's definitely not a shit film. For a weak entry in your franchise, it's definitely one of the better ones compared to the weak entry in some of these other franchises where it's way worse. So Scream 3, not that bad. So third honorable mention will be the Insidious franchise. I think all 4 of these movies are watchable, so I can't say that for some of these franchises that are going to be in this top 10. They all, not all of them, but some of them have that one movie where it's almost unwatchable. I think all 4 of these Insidious movies are great. It's just not my subgenre of horror. I don't care for the paranormal jump scare shit. These movies have some jump scares, but I think the first one's the most effective. I really like Patrick Wilson and Rose Byrne in the first 2 movies. I like those 2 probably the most. 4 is good. 3 is my least favorite, but it has one of the best scares and one of the creepiest villains. So you would think it's my favorite, but it's just not. So yeah, good for quadrilogy, right? Is that what you would call that? Trilogy, quadrilogy. Very good modern day quadrilogy franchise. So that would be the end of my honorable mentions. Now let's get into this top 10. So top 10 personal favorites. Let's start with number 10. This is going to be controversial already. Why is it so low? Keep in mind, it's in a top 10, which means I like it. So not saying I hate this franchise at all. It's on the list. And that is the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. This is just the iconic, character that I didn't really like as a kid for some reason. I appreciate all these movies as an adult, but as a kid, I always watched other movies that I'll get to later on. But for some reason, the talking, jokey, killer just didn't work for me. Freddy in the later sequels, it just turned me off. So I just didn't watch them as much. I probably watched them all, like not even all of them, just some of them once as a kid. It wasn't until later on that I actually got the 4 packs, like 1 through 4 and 5 through like Freddy versus Jason, much later on, and I actually watched all of them. So not a lot of nostalgia for this franchise, so that's why it's low. But I like Freddy more. I think he's very iconic. I can say that word for every freaking franchise I'm about to talk about. Everything's iconic. Freddy Krueger, iconic, great weapon. Uh, some great movies, not all of them. Freddy's Dead, trash. Just what the fuck? One of the worst horror movies ever made. What the hell were they thinking? Part 5 is unbearable too. Some of the worst acting and characters in that franchise. In that movie. So forgettable. Those characters. And the writing's very weird in that movie. I don't know what the hell they're doing. That ending. Ugh. The little kid. I don't want to go on too long because I got a lot of franchises to talk about here, so I'll try to keep this brief. 1, iconic, love it. 2, it's known as one of the gayest horror movies ever made. So, but I enjoy it. It's got one of the darkest Freddys, and I like that scene where he comes out of Jesse. So I enjoy some parts of part 2, but I'm not a huge fan of it. 3, I think it's the best sequel of the bunch. 4 has its moments. It's very cheesy. That's when Freddy went to the comedic, he went down the comedic route after that. Like it was no going back after that. Really, it was just like comedy. Let's just get more goofy and goofy from here. And then, like I said, 5 and 6 trash. And then Wes Craven's New Nightmare. It was like Scream before Scream. It was very meta. It was a Nightmare on Elm Street movie where the other movies were just movies. Interesting concept. Probably one of the best written movies in this franchise. And Freddy vs. Jason, very fun. So love. That's probably my favorite Freddy in the franchise, if I'm being honest. I like that one because it's such a good blend, like in Dream Warriors, of comedic Freddy and serious dark tone Freddy put together. So really like the Freddy makeup in that one as well too. So moving on to my number 9, and that is the Sleepaway Camp quadrilogy. I know there's like that little Sleepaway Camp 4 film that they only shot like 20-30 minutes of. That's somewhere out there. I've never seen it, but I'm not going to count that. Return to Sleepaway Camp is the official part 4 to me, and that's the only one that's unwatchable. Other than that, I love 1, 2, and 3. Those are just so easy to digest. You can put them on in the background when you're just doing chores around the house. They're just so fun to watch. Like they're just so quickly paced too. There's so many great funny characters and moments and just lines that I can quote. I just love this franchise, and I can say that about all of these, so I don't want to keep repeating myself. I'm going to sound redundant because I love all these things. I love this franchise. Angela, just a great killer. It's very unique too, like a transgender killer, like a boy who, spoilers by the way, a boy who was forced to dress like a girl and then at some point had a sex change, became a girl. Like, you don't get too many of those types of killers in your franchises. And that's the main lead, the main killer in this franchise is a transgendered woman, man, however you want to phrase it. That's very different. So, really, and her personality, Angela in part 2 and 3, very different from part 1, but just love Pamela Baker, Pamela Springsteen. What was I trying to say there? Pamela Springsteen, that's the actress. Just love her in part 2 and 3. Just I can watch those again and again and again. So can't say enough good about the trilogy. 4, I haven't seen it in so long, but I know it's bad. So you can't find it either. It's one of those movies where it's like out of print. You could probably find it on like eBay maybe, but it'll be like crazy priced. It's just like no one's trying to re-release that movie. No one's trying to do like a shout factory of Return to Sleepaway Camp because I think they know that everybody fucking hates that movie. There's some fans out there, but Alan, one of the most annoying characters in film history. Moving on, number 8 is The Evil Dead. Again, quadrilogy. We got 3 and then a remake, although you could argue 2 is a remake. And then the remake is probably a sequel. It's confusing, but I think the remake is a remake. And I think part two is whatever. I don't care. So, very fun, like different tones throughout the franchise where one's kind of like a horror comedy, two's comedy, three slapstick comedy, just balls to the wall insane, just like part two. Just a blast. Just from beginning to end of part two and three, it's just complete hysterical nonsense. Just crazy. Just throw everything at the wall, see what sticks. It's just insanity. That's the best word to describe Evil Dead 2 and 3. It's just craziness filled with all kinds of great K and B effects. Like this was like their start when they became like K and B. I think right around Evil Dead 2. I think they worked on Evil Dead 2 under someone else, but then they were K and B like right after that. They did like Intruder, and then that's how they started their company was Intruder, I think, and then they did Army of Darkness. I don't know who did the remake, but great effects in that too. So this franchise is filled with great practical effects and like no CGI at all. And we don't want CGI, all right? Us horror fans, we don't need it, especially in our slasher movies. But these movies are all freaking fun, so it had to make the top 10. And the remake is one of my favorite remakes of all time. It's my number one, actually. It's my favorite remake of all time. It's beautiful, the cinematography, Mia, the character, the actress who plays her, great, fantastic shit right there. It's just, I love it. And then number 7 will be the Psycho movies. The remake, one of the worst remakes of all time. So let's just not talk about that one. All right, shot for shot bullshit. We don't need that. The first 4, the first 3, great trilogy. I love all of them. Some people hate 3, but I love 3. I think it's got some of the greatest characters. It's the most slasher toned one of them all, where you got lots of nudity. You got the actress from Friday the 13th Part 5 and Slumber Party Massacre 2. It's just, I love her. I love that character. I love Duke. Hey, watch the guitar. And Anthony Perkins' film debut. He directed this one. This was his directorial debut. And just a great trilogy. Part 4 is the prequel made for TV, so it has that made for TV quality look to it. I'm not a fan of it. I think Olivia Hussey's performance in that movie is dialed way too far. Just like she needs to bring that back down. Like she is over the top in that movie. I did not like her performance in the slightest. That really just killed that movie for me. I was just like, oh my god, how crazy is this woman gonna get? It's just unbearable. I just didn't like it. I know some people like it, but prequels, I'm not a huge fan of prequels. So yeah, the trilogy, very strong. Part 2, one of the best sequels out there. I mean, a sequel that had the balls to try to actually, do a sequel to such an iconic classic, one of the first slasher movies ever made, an Alfred Hitchcock film, to do a sequel 20 years later and then like change things about that first movie regarding like the mother. That takes some serious balls to do that. So this is a great movie. Psycho 2 and Psycho 1, classic. And Psycho 3, very fun. 4 and 5, meh, not so much. Especially 5, just completely pointless. Moving on to my number 6 is the Saw franchise. This has 8 installments. Was going to have 9 back in May, but things happen. We'll get that next year. Hopefully, fingers crossed, and hopefully that movie will continue the great continuity that's been established so far. These movies have such great continuity. In fact, I'll say that out of all these franchises, this one probably has the best. Because these movies were made year after year, and they continue from each other. Like, they end and start where the last one began and ended and shit. Like, it's just a marathon franchise. Like, you can marathon these, and it's perfect for that. Like, and it's astonishing that we were able to get this, franchise when you hear that they were made 1 year after one another. It's just crazy to think that they made this so quickly. I mean, some people think this franchise is shit, it's torture porn or whatever, but it's just like, whatever. Like, some people think it's very convoluted, but I think it's fantastic. The gore, the traps are freaking top notch. The practicals in this franchise don't get anywhere near as much praise as they should. Out of all 8, I don't think there's a single one that I don't like. There's just the weaker ones, kind of like in the Scream franchise. There was just the one that was, the weakest one, part 3. In this franchise, 5 and 7 are the weaker ones, but I enjoy all the other ones. Some I love a lot more. I love part 3 and part 1 and 2 and 6. 4 is okay, and like I said, 5 and 7 are fine. They just are not as great as the other ones. I think 5, just the main game in part 5 was the weakest part of that film. It just felt very obvious what they were supposed to do. And it focused way just too much on Hoffman's background with Jigsaw. It felt like a middle chapter in a trilogy, like 4, 5, and 6. So there wasn't, a great like twist at the end of part 5. So that's why it's my least favorite. And all the other ones have great twists. So it's like when you have like 4 great twists in a row, and then you get to part 5 and there's no twist at all, really, it's a bummer. But 6 has a fantastic twist, and 7 has an ending that I'm still a little upset that they haven't continued after. Like we don't get any explanation about who those other 2 were. Like I thought Jigsaw was going to clear that up, but it didn't. But it still is, connected to these movies. It has connective tissue to this franchise still, Jigsaw. And I was worried going into that one. Like, are they going to ruin the continuity? But they didn't, so thank God for that. So yeah, Saw, underrated franchise, love it. Had to put it on the list at number 6. Top 5, these are franchises that are the most nostalgic for me, the most fun, the most rewatchable, and the ones that I've seen the most. Number 5 is the Hatchet quadrilogy. We're supposed to get a 5 and 6 here real soon. If COVID will go away, maybe we'll get it sooner. But right now we got 4, and I think all 4 of them are just absolutely entertaining and brutal and vicious. The kills are just over the top, but not too over the top. In part 2, they're a little, cartoony-ish. The intestines, like strangling the guy's head, pops off. But they're so creative. Like if you want to see a franchise that's like a throwback to 80s slashers with all kinds of horror alumni and great practical effects and absolutely zero CGI, check out the Hatchet movies, because these kills are what we're here to see. Victor Crowley demolishing these people, and he does that. And he's scary as hell. Love the look of him. Kane Hodder brings it every single time. He is Victor Crowley, just like for a lot of people, he is Jason Voorhees. Number 3 or 4. Number 4 is the Halloween franchise. One, iconic. Not much I can say about it. Everyone's said everything that needs to be said about Halloween. It's just great. It's like one of the best horror movies ever made. It's one of the, if not the best score ever. It's so simplistic, and it's one of my favorites. One of my favorite scores of all time. The mask, iconic. Just a very terrifying mask that for some reason they couldn't freaking get right in the sequels. That's the one thing that just blows my mind to this day. It's like, why? Was there legal issues, or what the hell was the reason? Why couldn't they make the mask look the same in every single movie? It drives me nuts. And another thing that I don't like about this franchise is just the continuity. We got like 4 timelines now. You got 1, 2, 7, 8. And then you got 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. And then you got 1, Halloween 2018. You have to say the fucking year, which pisses me off. And then, kills and ends. And then you got Rob Zombie's 2 movies. And then you got just Halloween 3 sitting there by itself. Like, hey, remember me? It's the odd man out, Halloween 3. It's just annoying. It's annoying that we got all these different timelines, and now everyone's trying to do it. Texas Chainsaw Massacre did it, and they're going to try to do it again, I heard. Just quit. Quit with the direct sequel shit. Let's just remake it or keep going from the last one. All right, let's get a direct sequel to Halloween Resurrection where we can finally kill Freddy, kill Busta Rhymes. Let's get that sequel, and we'll see Busta Rhymes get his ass kicked finally. How about that? That's the sequel I want to see. So yeah, 2, awesome sequel, very good back-to-back with part 1. I love part 3, didn't as a kid, saw it once, maybe turned it off halfway through, like, where the fuck's Michael? He's not here? But as an adult, watched it again, love it. Just the story, it's crazy. Cochran wanting to, melt the heads of kids, or like, hit them with like a beam, and then crickets and shit come out. Just gnarly shit. Very creepy visuals. And I love part 4, of course, hate the mask, but Love part 4. Love the characters in it. Love the atmosphere. It's probably the most like Halloween feeling Halloween movie of them all. Halloween 5 has its issues for sure, but it's very nostalgic. It was on the most next to part 4 as a kid. Always caught that one on TV for some reason. Part 5 was always on. But yeah, it has its issues, but I have nostalgia for it, so I like it. It's probably one of the slower movies, but I like Don Shanks as Michael Myers. Um, Part 6, great atmosphere. Some of the best kills and one of the best portrayals since the first one by George P. Wilbur and Michael A. Lerner. But yeah, the movie's a mess. You got producer's cut and director's cut, theatrical, whatever. Such a mess of a script and movie. The production, just absolute mess. But still a good movie. I enjoy it. H2O have major issues with it, but I enjoy it somewhat. I like Jamie Lee Curtis in it and Josh Hartnett. That's about it. Not a fan of Myers in it. Not a fan of the atmosphere. Not a fan of the score. Not a fan of the 4 masks. And Resurrection, pretty fucking bad. And then you got Rob Zombie's Halloween, which I liked. Saw that at the theaters. It was the first one I ever saw at the theater until Halloween 2018. And then Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 just flew under the radar. Like, I didn't know it existed until I got, like, the Halloween Blu-ray pack with all 10 of them. It was like, there's Rob Zombie's Halloween 2? What the fuck's this? Watched it, hated it, watched it a couple times since, and I appreciate it a little bit more. If I look at it as just a slasher and it's just some other random guy killing people, it's a brutal, mean slasher. Like, he's slamming people around, crushing heads. Great slasher, not a great Halloween movie to me. So, those are my thoughts on the Halloween franchise. Halloween 2018 title, hate that title. I like that one. I love that scene where he's going like house to house killing people. Just fantastic score. John Carpenter back and at it again with a vengeance. Awesome freaking score. Love that. And the mask, finally, a great mask. Probably the best mask since the original. So, number 3 is the Final Destination franchise. This is a franchise that I saw from a very young age, right after these next two that I will be talking about. This is one of those franchises that scared the shit out of me when I was a little kid. It made me paranoid. I thought something was going to kill me at any moment. Final Destination, man. I saw 3 at the theater. Terrified me. Then I saw 4 at the theater like twice and 5 at the theater a few times. These were like the first movies I ever watched more than once at the theater. So I can't say that about the other ones. I can say that about this franchise. And I mean, that's not really fair because a lot of those other franchises had sequels that were way older before I was born. So maybe that's not fair to say. But I saw these movies so many times. And it's probably the franchise I've rewatched the most, maybe. But I just love the kills. I love the setups. These movies are all about the setups and the way people die. It's so creative. Like the engine coming out of a car, the fan spinning on his head. Mainly Final Destination 3. It has the best kills. Love Final Destination 3. The first one is great. Love the second one. I love all of them, really. I can't say there's like a horrible one, but the weak link in this one, the one that's the worst easily, is the 4th one. It just has a lot of CGI, like visions in it, and just some bad CGI here and there. The weakest acting for sure. And it just kind of feels the laziest with the setups and whatnot. But still great kills. So that's still strong in that movie. And I love like the credits at the beginning and end, and the 3D effects in that movie were pretty cool. So yeah, another franchise that if you haven't seen and you love bloody practical effects kills, creative kills, high body counts, check out the Final Destination movies. They're fantastic. Number 2, we'll go to the Friday the 13th franchise. We've got 12 of them, and I'll say out of all 12, there's only one that I hate, and that's Jason Goes to Hell. 7 and 8 I have issues with, mainly because of the MPAA. Fuck those movies, especially Part 7. Hell, they had their hand in all the other ones too, but the ones that stand out the most is really like 7 first. That's the one that feels the most choppy, and then 5, and then 2. So yeah, there's a few of them that are just... I heard we're getting Part 2, by the way. Scream Factory, they're going to release some gore footage for Part 2, so that's cool. But yeah, the MPAA ruined Part 7. Part 8 I have issues with because of the writing and some of the decisions in that movie, teleporting Jason, young boy Jason, her Rennie's as a final girl and her connection to Jason, the ending. Oh my god. But some great moments. There's some great highlights in that film, so I can't say it's all bad. One iconic film. It started a franchise that's probably the most iconic franchise of all time. So many fan films for this franchise. The hockey mask, like you can't look at hockey the same way again. Like the hockey mask is Jason. It's not even that sport no more. It's just Jason. The score, the key ma ma ma. It's just as iconic as all the other theme songs from these other franchises. It's just great. It's all about the kills, just like these other franchises I've been talking about, and they're all good when they're not being butchered by the MPA. But there's got some creative ones. I think Jason is a cool killer. In most of them, I'm not a fan of the portrayal in part 2 and 5. It's not really Jason, but even that portrayal is a weak portrayal. And Freddy versus Jason, I'm not a fan of. But great killer, great kills, fun movies, easy to digest. Like they're so quick, they're so short. Like they just fly by, and they're just so fun. So Friday the 13th, very nostalgic, and just one of my favorite franchises of all time. And it is at number 2. But number 1. My favorite franchise of all time, and I think it's the first one that I saw. I can't say that for sure, but I think it's the first horror movie I ever saw, if not one of them. And it's definitely one of the first horror movies I ever bought and received as a kid, and that is Child's Play. I got Child's Play 2 on VHS and the first one, and then I got Child's Play, the first one, on DVD at one point, like for my 6th birthday, like at a young age. I was watching these movies when I was like 5, and then got them for my 6th birthday and shit. Like, I grew up with these movies. I saw Seed of Chucky at the theater when I was like not even 10 years old. I was probably like 9 at the time. So yeah, very nostalgic. Love these movies. Love Chucky as a character. He's so freaking funny. So many great one-liners in almost all these movies. In the first one, they kept him in the shadows. They did a lot of POV cam shots, and he wasn't fully unleashed yet. But 2, one of the best sequels of all time. And then, 3 is one of the most underrated sequels of all time. Just love that one to death. Bride of Chucky is very fun. Ronnie Yu does a great job directing that one. And Tiffany is a great addition to the franchise. They don't use her character as well in later movies, like in Curse and Cult. She's kind of like not there, and her acting is worse in those movies. But Tiffany in part 4 is her strongest. I love her in that movie. And the kills in that one, like the nails to the face. Awesome stuff. And it's very meta, Bride of Chucky. This franchise only has one bad movie, but that I can still enjoy it. Like, it's bad, but I can still laugh at it. And that's Seed of Chucky. Cult, I have issues with, but I can't say it's a bad movie. I enjoy it. Seed is really just the only one that most people hate. So it's a great franchise. And then there's the remake that a lot of people, like, I think it's split down the middle. A lot of people hate it or they love it. I love it. I think it's fantastic. I love the new spin on the story, the AI, and Chucky's relationship with Andy, how they explore that and really make you sympathize with Chucky. The score in that movie by Bear McCreary is one of the best scores of this franchise. 2 has a good one. 3, I like. It has like that military sound to it. But that Child's Play remake score is awesome, and I got it on vinyl. That's how great it is. So yeah, Child's Play is just a franchise that really got me to where I am today. Made me a horror fan and made me scared. It gave me a lot of nightmares as a kid, and I even dressed up as Chucky for Halloween one year. I got the mask, some prick stole it, and I even got like overalls and wrote good guy on it. I was committed. I really went the extra mile to create that outfit. Like, I bought all kinds of shit trying to make it look like a good guy outfit. Love the franchise, can't say enough about it, and that's why it is my number 1. And that's my top 10 horror franchises. Sorry this video went a little too long, but if you're still here, you're still watching, thank you so much for joining me tonight. If you like what you've seen here, you can hit this like button, I really appreciate it. Share with all your friends, and become a subscriber today just by clicking on my cartoon face in about 5 seconds. And until next time, Alpha Feed you soon.